Fewer Singaporeans got married in 2024, with the number of couples exchanging vows dropping by 7% compared to 2023. And that's even as their unions hold steady, with divorces before the 10th year lowest in 10 marriage cohorts. Now, these figures are from the latest Family Trends report released by the Social and Family Development Ministry. 264 more couples split in 2024 as compared to the previous year. But divorces before the 10th year dropped to 14.4% among those who got married in 2013, down from 17% in 2005. The gap between dissolved Muslim marriages and civil marriages also narrowed, with the divorce rate for the former falling to 18.2%. More than 26,000 couples got married in 2024, a dip from over 28,000 marriages in the previous year. This was a result of fewer civil marriages among couples aged 25 to 34. The median age of first marriage continues to rise. Men are getting married later at around 31 years old as compared to around 30 in 2014. So are women. The median age of their first marriage is now around 29 years, about a year older than in 2014. And couples here are still not having babies. Total fertility rate remains at a historic low of 0.97, the same as the previous year. First-time parents are also getting older, with the median ages for fathers and mothers at 33.6 and 31.9 years old, respectively.
Decisions surrounding marriages are deeply personal. But we can do more to assure couples, if they do choose to start a family. We have enhanced a marriage and parenthood package over the years to provide more comprehensive support. As a community, we can also support young couples around us, such as through sharing our own journeys and lessons.
Various measures to encourage couples to get married and have kids earlier were rolled out in recent years. Some built-to-order flats now have shorter waiting time of 3 years. The payout for the baby bonus scheme to encourage bigger families has also increased over the years. And couples can now share 6 weeks of parental leave, up from 4 previously. And to help parents with raising children, the government pledged to add almost 40,000 new infant care and childcare places.
Many of these changes would begin a signal to young Singaporeans that Singapore is really made for families, and it's possible to start their desire to begin a family. And so it will take a few years, but I think the message will become more and more clear to Singaporeans that this is possible and achievable.
For more on this topic, we speak with our expert, Professor Paulin Straughan. She's a sociologist at the Singapore Management University with research interests in family and aging. She's also a Families for Life Council member. Pauline, always good to have you on the show. Now, the grievances of this report, right? Mm-hmm. Tell us what may be some of the reasons for the dip in marriages.
Well, I think that we really shouldn't get overly concerned and therefore make our young Singaporeans very edgy, right? I think this is the way things are going to be with developed societies and more opportunities for young adults. It's not that they are disking family and parenthood and marriage, but rather, they're taking their time, right? Mm-hmm. They're taking their time because the expectations of marriage is also quite different now. Mm-hmm. They marry because they believe that it should be forever after, and therefore taking time to seek out their life companion. Mm-hmm. And of course, in the process of thinking about marriage, I think they are also trying to make it a perfect path. So perhaps the home should be in place, there should be sufficient amass savings, etc. So I think the message to them really is you don't have to have all the parts in place before you get married, and things will naturally evolve and rise to support them.
Okay, but while we are waiting, for this, these pieces of the puzzles to fall into place, as you might say, but fewer marriages in the Asian context will mean, fewer children, and that will affect our total fertility rate, which is already historical low. What do you make of that?
Well, first I'd say that Singapore probably has one of the strongest, most comprehensive support schemes in place for marriage and procreation. That much said, I think that smaller families are are definitely going to be the norm to come. Right? So the challenge for us as a society, particularly Singapore, which we are so dependent on just manpower resources, is to quickly get our act together and make the necessary transformations to learn how to receive a super-aged society where we're going to have more who are post-65, maybe a smaller cohort of younger adults, but how do we then leverage extended life expectancy and how do we re-toggle everything so that we learn how to live with the fact that we're going to have smaller families and we're going to have more singles and we will still prosper and we will still be strong and resilient.
Okay. Now, on the point about the aging society, right, growing older, that's also a major stress point for many Singapore families. We talk about the sandwich, generation, taking care of younger children, taking care of your aging parents' needs. Has much improved in terms of giving support to parents of children in a young school-going age?
A lot, certainly, compared to, I shouldn't compare myself, right? But really, compared to parents who were growing children in the 80s and 90s, I think that in terms of government support, there has been a tremendous improvement. So now, in terms of infant care, child care, after-school care, better quality care, more accessible and affordable care, that's all rolled out, right? But of course, we can always do more and we will always listen to the pain points of young parents. But nonetheless, we need to look at the needs of Singapore as a whole society. There are other challenges that we need to pay attention to, and given our limited resources, we need to understand how we can support families with different challenges throughout the life course.
Speaking of that, you're talking about quality care, you're talking about a comprehensive coverage. Let's look at families with children with special needs, developmental needs. What have we been doing for them? What more needs to be done?
I think we have done a lot better in terms of early intervention and accessibility to, I think, early childhood support, right? And special schools, etc. But the biggest challenge for us really is to continue to build an inclusive society so that these children, when they graduate into young adulthood, they can find their special space in the economy and throughout their life course, support in the community. Because as parents, I'm sure parents with these special children, their main concern really is, what if they are no longer around?
Right.
Who will look after their children? And the answer has to be, we will, because they are our children.
All right. Let's talk about quality of life. In the report, they touch a bit of that. How do Singaporeans define quality of life? And related to that, how do you measure that for Singapore families?
So quality of life is a social construct, right? Depending on who you talk to, which stages of life they are at now. The criteria may vary in terms of what is more important and what is less important. But I think overall, this study looks at physical well-being, psychological well-being, the kind of support that they receive, and generally the environment we live in, whether or not it is conducive to having a peaceful life that allows us to look forward to the future. So all in, it means that we are quite demanding, right? We want to, have a life that is supported by our families and beyond the family, the environment we're in.
Other areas, do we need to work on to help Singaporeans attain an even higher quality of life, given that we complain so much, like you say?
I think that Singaporeans complain. Of course, there are those with immediate needs, right? So I will not trivialize those. But by and large, average Singaporeans complain because they are glazing into the future and the anxieties of, around the bend. They cannot see what's going to be there to support them. And that's where the anxiety comes up. Are they wrong? Perhaps not. We are seeing a transition in the Singapore population profile. There are some challenges, but there are some opportunities as well. We talk about an aging population, but we don't talk about the fact that, yay, I'm not going to die, I'm 62 now. Oh, I told everybody my age. I'm 62 now, and I can look forward to, if I take good care of myself, another 25 to 30 years. And that's a big plus, right? So we need to start to leverage it, to look at an aging society and leverage the extended life expectancy, with the right measures like improving on health span.
Right. All right, Pauline, always a pleasure to have you. Thanks for joining us. And that was Dr. Paulin Straughan from Singapore Management University.